No one likes long flights. Then why are we okay that our flight from SFO to JFK has remained 6 hours for the past 60 years? And do we really imagine for the next 60 years it'll remain 6 hours? No. It's going to get faster, and we believe supersonic transportation is a solution. My name is Norris T, and today I want to share with you how we're going to reintroduce supersonic commercial aviation by muting the sonic boom. There are a few macro trends that make this possible today. The first one is regulations. The FAA, for the first time since the 1970s, are writing regulations to allow supersonic civil flight. And secondly, there's technology. NASA has been developing low-boom supersonic technology for the past 30 years, and now it's finally ripe for commercialization. So it turns a once thunderous clap of a sonic boom into a soft thump, and that's what we're incorporating into our vehicle. And so we looked into the business case of flying supersonic over land and how important that is to us as a manufacturer and to our airline customers. And so we looked at over 1,500 routes and identified 340 routes that an aircraft can fly supersonic over water. However, if you can fly supersonic over land, you increase that by threefold, flying over 1,300 more routes. And what does that mean for the aircraft manufacturer like us? Well, we identified a 300 aircraft market, of which 218 are for supersonic overland flight routes. And to break even as a manufacturer, you need to sell at least 160 aircraft. So if you can fly only supersonic over water, you cannot be a profitable manufacturer. What about airlines? They have to make money. And so we've looked at over 140 profitable routes, and we on average found that they can make $100,000 in revenue per flight at a cost of $75,000 per flight as well, leading up to a $21 million annual profit per airplane every year. And with all of this in mind, this is the aircraft concept that we came up with. It flies Mach 1.8, or roughly 2.5 times faster than current aircraft today, carrying 50 to 70 passengers over a range of 5,000 nautical miles. So think about SFO to London in 6.5 hours versus the 10.5 hours it is today. And we have an elongated fuselage to mute that sonic boom. And this is what roughly the cabin layout would look like. It's mostly premium economy seats, but there's the opportunity to put business lie-flat seats as well. So we had the right foundational team to get this company started as well. I myself have never worked on anything slower than the speed of sound and recently graduated from Stanford with my MBA. And then there's Tim McDonald, my CTO and co-founder. His PhD is in conceptual aircraft design, and we've used his tools that he's developed to design that initial aircraft concept you saw earlier. We've made a lot of significant traction in the past 2 years that we've been around. Most recently, we won a US Air Force contract to develop a militarized version of this vehicle, such that we use the same airframe, but we changed the cabin layout to meet US Air Force's special mission needs. You might be wondering about the competitors. What about Boeing and Airbus? Well, those two, they're after 1,000 aircraft markets, so this one is obviously niche. And Boeing also invested in Aerion, a supersonic business jet company, as their answer to supersonic civil aviation. There's Boom that you probably heard of, and yes, they fly faster, but we don't think they can be a profitable company because their aircraft cannot fly supersonic over land. Now, we know this is an ambitious project, but we have a 10-year strategy to make this happen. We're currently in the concept design phase, where at the end of 2021, we'll get third-party experts from the engineering and airline world to review our concept and validate it. Then we'll go to prototyping, where we'll do supersonic wind tunnel tests, and then also do some ground testing of the hardware. Then we go into testing, which would be flight test of a pre-production vehicle. And then finally, we do production, where we produce the vehicle and enter commercial service. So if you want to cut your flight times in half, come talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Norris.
Where did you come from? Where are we? That was cool. So I lead a research team, and we're in the process right now of writing a ton of research about supersonic flight. And there's some testing that's going to happen in the next few years. This is absolutely a reality. Is it more about getting somewhere faster, Or is there a sustainability angle to this as well that's important?
Yeah, totally. Sustainability is a huge issue. And so we've been talking to a few engine OEMs about how we can make greener engines. So that's adopting sustainable aviation fuels into the fuel.
I've never wanted a pitch at Phocuswright to be more correct than yours. I love this idea. I want this.
Yeah, of course.
First, I've got a question about unit economics, and I'll ask a question about regulatory. So how much do you think a seat's going to cost compared to a regular international business American first class ticket? Like, what's the premium you think that's going to be on a...
Yeah, so actually we did our own operating cost analysis, and then we found on average it's going to be $1,500 to $3,500 per ticket one way. And so it obviously depends on how far you go for that route.
And then talk about the regulatory piece, because that's huge, right? You've got to deal not just with one government, you've got to deal with 15 or 20 or whatever the number is.
Yeah.
Where are you on regulatory approvals? Where do you think the sticking points are? How are you going to solve?
Yeah, so the good thing is the FAA is working on these regulations, not only for the domestic United States, but working with ICAO at the international level. So first they're working on supersonic takeoff and certification regulations, and then mid-2020s, they're going to write regulations to put a noise limit instead of a speed limit on supersonic overland flight. Yeah. And that is being developed by a X-plane that I used to work on at Lockheed that's doing the flight testing as we speak today. Yeah.
You know, what's interesting is when you played the actual boom, I was hoping that wasn't the boom after being muted.
No, it's not.
Okay, good, because it kind of hit me, and I'm like, whoa, that's the boom, right? Made understand that. I guess my point is, there are major players in this. I saw two people. I saw you, and I saw your CTO.
Sure.
How do you make this, and you just talked about a 10-year vision.
Yep.
How do you actually make this real in an environment where you have huge money being floated, not just corporate, but country and geopolitical aspects of this as well? How do you make this real?
So it definitely helps having worked in the aerospace industry, because especially Skunk Works, who's designed some of the most famous military aircraft in the world, and having them as our advisors helps us to design an aggressive yet realistic timeline so that we can develop this aircraft. And we also want to work with the US Air Force or the DoD at large, because they have a lot of background in this, not only operationally, but also testing. And we can incorporate their feedback into the design process and the whole testing and flight test process. But
Well, quickly, Norris, what do you want out of this? Because partly this is about you. You've seen big names like Elon Musk and Tesla and others.
Sure.
What is it that you want to get out of this? What's your exit?
So personally, I've believed for over 10 years that we need to find a way to get around the world faster, because we're not going to be flying subsonic speeds forever. And so this is basically my mission in life, is to do that. And then I spent a number of years trying to figure out the solution to it. And I think supersonic transportation is the most near-term feasible solution to faster travel.
Thank you, Norris. Nice. Well done.
You're going to be on that.
Next up, Stefan Pingod from Fly-In. Stefan.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here.